Hello again, Star Wars unboxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's Star Wars Unboxing Show. I'm your host, Darth Tuba, and today I'm really excited to have another reveal of a 3D printed reproduction of an unproduced Star Wars Droids action figure, which I'm really excited about, which I will reveal to you shortly. But before I do that, I wanted to talk a little bit, or maybe kind of reiterate a little bit, about an ongoing controversy in the collecting world when it comes to toy reproductions. And I think that this argument kind of stems from all different aspects, whether it's Hasbro deciding to do a retro line of figures, okay, or any kind of individual entrepreneur that makes and sells reproductions of figures, whether they're actual figures or customizations or reproductions of unproduced figures, which I've always had the most interest in, just because it's kind of like that what if kind of category, you know. So and I have to say, you know, I've discovered there's a lot of controversy. There are a lot of people, you know, in the collecting world, that is, that are very upset about this this practice, this art form, if you will, or this this procedure of people taking, and generally speaking, I mean, it used to happen before 3D printing. They would just take Sculpey and, like clay, and basically doctor up figures and then put them together and make just customizations. There's a whole field of it. There's a whole collectible market for it. And not just Star Wars, but all sorts of genres. And because of that, I think that there's just been a lot of opinions, a lot of heated opinions about it. But again, even if like companies like Hasbro decide to re-release figures, like you've seen in my previous, look at some of my previous episodes, I did the Empire Strikes Back set of re-released figures that come on the slightly damaged cards, that kind of thing. There's been a lot of heated opinions of people that feel that that's incorrect. Maybe it devalues the original retro vintage line of figures that came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And I can understand that. I mean, I certainly can see that being, if you're collecting as an investment, it's a challenge when you see that there are reproductions being made, and how are those reproductions? How can you really tell the difference between a reproduction and an original? And I understand that there are people that want to create absolute original figures. I mean, maybe they have figures and they don't have the weapons, so they go to find original weapons, only to find that I guess there's some telltale. Maybe they float versus not float. I've never really done that myself. So I think the originals sink in water and the reproductions float in water, which is how if somebody were to basically try to sell you an original item, then it turned out to be a knockoff. I can understand that level of frustration, but when it comes to something that is full out advertised as a reproduction, and someone is willing to pay whatever that price is, generally it isn't anywhere near what an original figure in a card would cost. There is a question there that says, isn't that really up to the consumer? I mean, that's kind of the way I see it. If somebody doesn't want to buy original or reproduction figures, whether they're actual reproductions or customs or reproduced unproduced figures like the one I'm going to show you, I kind of feel like that's up to the consumer. And if the consumers don't buy, if not enough consumers are interested, well, then maybe the person creating them won't. But I just think that there's too much interest in it. Star Wars is a big brand, and it transcends many different ages. Okay, I'm probably among the oldest when it comes to collectors, because I was right at that prime age at 6 years old, and I think this is fantastic. And with the advent of 3D printing now being kind of scaled down, and you can buy a 3D printer in your house, and with minimal expense and just some software and everything, create a figure. I mean, that's amazing to me. I think that's going to be the wave of the future. I look forward to a time when maybe we'll all have 3D printers. Can you imagine, and I've said this on previous episodes, could you imagine if they make 3D color printers where essentially if you want to take something like a three-dimensional figure, like I'll say, for example, this little Black Series Mandalorian Loyalist, okay? It's a little big, yes, but can you imagine putting this, piece by piece through a printer and it's colored, and all you have to do is put it together like a model, and then you have figures, and then, oh, I'd like to get 15 Mandalorian loyalists, okay? So what do? You print out 15. You just got to spend the money on the material and put them together yourself. There's a future in that. I really think that, particularly for collectors. So I've also seen episodes of people that have taken figures that they have found 3D prints, files of original action figures, printed them out, painted them, and, tried to match up the original. I think that's a neat little hobby. I don't think it's something to be like put down. I do think that, I understand the value aspect of it. And if you're spending tens of thousands of dollars on figures and you're worried about your value of your figure going down because of mass amounts of frauds being put out there. I shouldn't say frauds, but reproductions being put out there. I definitely understand that, but I'm sorry, but I feel like we're talking about toys here. We're not talking about gold or, diamonds or, real commodities. So I think that these toys were never meant to be things of value that you would trade like items on the stock market. So that's just my take on it. And I feel like I watch a channel called Toy Polloi. I'm sure some of you have heard of them. And he joked about he restores a lot of toys, and he gets a lot of flack for it. And he said, toys should not be restored. It should be exactly how you kept it. And like, why? He bought the toy. He can do what he wants with it. I remember I took a Millennium Falcon when I was in like high school. I bought in a flea market. I found a Millennium Falcon. I already own one, but I kept that one for myself. I just restored it on a recent episode. But then I found another one, and I took that and I painted it black. And I did. I took the whole thing apart, and I did the whole thing where I painted it and detailed it, and it was black. Now, mind you, my artistic skills are minimal. My daughter carries that skill, not me. But I was pretty proud of the job I did, and it was kind of cool. And it looked like an evil version of the Millennium Falcon. I thought it was great. Sadly, years later, I ended up either selling it or throwing it away. But yeah, I know. But it was just fun. It was my own little customization. So I encourage it. I applaud it. And when it comes to the Droids figures, I've always been fascinated by them. I've always been fascinated by that last part of Kenner, their last grip on the Star Wars brand, basically, when after Power of the Force came and went, and they had the Ewoks and the Droids cartoon, and they were like, all right, this is it. It's our last shot. Let's make it good. And they did, and they did do some pretty cool figures for that first round. But the cartoon was it was all right. It's fun to look at now from a nostalgic perspective, but it really wasn't what audiences wanted. So it didn't last a second season. So they didn't bother putting out any toys. So, but I did find a person on eBay that does do some reproductions, and I've actually purchased 2 from him. Okay, and now I have a third, and the third I have is Jessica Meade, one of the many characters that have come through the Star Wars Droids universe. And I've been like just a little at a time. I've been like going through and collecting the character, and I think there's about 9 or 10. I think so. I still have a little ways to go, but I do enjoy it. I enjoy the come in. Ooh, it even came with a blaster. Cool. Let me get the blaster out. Now, I will say this. This looks like... Now, I say 3D printed, okay, guys? Now, I will be honest with you. I can't be sure 100%. I'm not in the room with the person when they're making these, so it's hard for me to tell whether these are actual 3D printed or if they are, in fact, something else. I think they are. This doesn't look too much like a Leia knockoff, okay? But I will say this. This is probably my least favorite of the 3 that I've received so far, only because it does not have a good grip. I cannot have it hold the weapon. It keeps dropping the weapon. Not an uncommon thing among the old figures, okay? So I think that it is still a cool figure to have. I remember this character. I remember the character from the show. And, the Droids cartoon obviously was a Saturday morning cartoon. It existed for one season. It was like it was an hour block. One half hour was Droids and the other half hour was Ewoks. And I think Ewoks lasted for a second season. But basically, that was it. And then these characters, I do believe Jessica Meade existed in the first season. Okay, and the way it worked was, if you haven't seen it, that R2 and 3PO, and again, all of this is no longer canon, but R2 and 3PO, prior to their adventures with Luke and Leia and Han, were kind of passed along by owner to owner to owner, and they had adventures with these different owners. And I don't think Jessica Meade was one of the owners. I think she was a friend of one of the, like, Jan Tosh, maybe? It's hard for me to remember. So this was like a cool... cool little part of that story. They usually go like 2 or 3 episodes, and then R2 and 3PO would move on to another group and have a whole different set of people there, and then they would have a few more adventures, and that's kind of how they did it. It kind of worked in a lot of ways. It was like the movie, it was like the A-Team or the Hulk going from place to place each week, except they'd stay for a few days, so you get to know and like the characters that they had. I remember one of them was Uncle Gundy, who was like a little short guy, kind of like almost like a Yosemite Sam type of character. So there was some pretty likable things. And if you were at the age, you could actually, by this time, we're talking 1985, 86, I was getting ready. I just got into high school. So at that point, I was collecting to the point where, just because I was collecting. And then I realized that, my interest had waned and gone into different things. So I didn't even finish. I only collected from the original the original Droids line. I had gotten R2, 3PO, and Jan Tosh, I think was that. And that was it. And beyond that, I didn't collect anything else. So I still have those figures. And these guys will find a place of, with pride alongside them. So that will do it for this short but sweet episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Check out all my stuff on Instagram and Twitter, and Darth Tuba's Unboxing page on Facebook. Again, leave comments, guys. There's been a few more people leaving comments. Thank you so much for doing that. I'll read every comment. I will respond to every comment in one capacity or another. Okay. But again, what are your thoughts? Let me hear your thoughts about reproduction figures. If you think it's something you shouldn't do, that's all right. You can post that if you give me your reasons why, and I'd be really interested to hear your opinion. Again, I respect your opinion. If you don't like it, I understand. I just happen to think that these are really cool, and it's a cool thing to try to collect that's unusual, that you won't see, that not everybody's going to collect. So it's something to consider. All right, so that'll do it. So until next time, may the Force and the toys, regular or unproduced, be with you.